This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today is Tuesday, which means we're doing a top 5 list, and if you've been watching these videos recently, then you will know that I've been running through different genres of rock music from the 1970s based on the idea that I think, as I've said in many of these videos, that the 70s was the most fertile and diverse period for rock music. And we're going to round off this little sort of series of videos on 70s rock albums today with what I think is basically a list of the 5 most iconic and my favourite basically guitar moments from the 1970s. And then we're going to kind of carry that forward in subsequent weeks, where we're going to look at iconic or important or just my favourite guitar moments from the 60s or the 80s or whatever. That's basically where we're going to be morphing this series of videos into. But today it's all about, as I say, the most iconic, in my opinion, guitar moments of the 70s. Some of these might be solos. Some of them might be just a simple riff. Some might be a song or an entire album, but they're all, in my mind, in some way or other, kind of emblematic of what was so great about, 70s rock guitar playing. So let's get started straight away with
Layla, intro riff.
Yeah, this was just a massive thing for me. Layla, that intro riff, it's just spine-tingling. I've spoken about this like once or twice before, probably more than that. Excuse me. But it was the Layla intro riff was used as the theme tune to just a local current affairs TV show concerning local matters in this part of the world. I think it was either on BBC Northeast or Tyne Tees, but it was in the sort of late 70s, early 80s when I first heard this, and it was just like, what is that? I have to know what that... And, sometimes when a piece of music just absolutely stops you in your tracks. And, the TV show actually was called Coast to Coast, I seem to remember. And, yeah, just they used Layla as the intro to it. And, anyway, asked around, found out who it was by, bought the album, and I've spoken many times about how much I love that Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs album. But it's just such an iconic, fantastic, spine-tingling, definitive guitar riff that if you're talking about 70s guitar moments, then it had to be not just on the list, but at the top of the list as well. Next,
Sultans of Swing.
Yeah, fast forward to the late 70s. What sort of guitar sounds did you hear? Well, you had the whole sort of Nile Rodgers, D-eyed Strat kind of sound, on all the Chic and Sister Sledge records. You had, I guess, like the Shadows made a bit of a comeback back then, didn't they? Riders in the Sky and Cavatina they did versions of. And there was and then you had the whole sort of new wave of British heavy metal kind of thing that was, kind of coming to the fore around about then. But there was no other guitar sound quite like Sultans of Swing. The moment it came on the radio, you knew exactly what it was. And again, it's another one of those stop you in your tracks moments. I can't think there were too many other people that sounded, well, that have since, I was going to say there can't be too many other people who sounded like Mark Knopfler at the time, but, there aren't too many people who sounded like him ever, even since then. But just that, those opening bars of Sultans of Swing, it was just kind of cool and laid back, but sort of pacey and driving along at the same time. It was unlike anything you'd ever heard. Gritty, laid back blues rock, but without, kind of big distorted guitar solos. So, plenty of solos, but nothing. It wasn't kind of going for that big sort of shouty, overdriven sound. Unlike anything else, and pretty much. You go on on Spotify and check out any number of 70s playlists, and Sultans of Swing is on them all. So that says something, doesn't it? Next.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, now this one I remember really well. Thursday nights, for some reason, I can't remember what it was, something to do with my parents' working schedule, but I had to be babysat by me granny, and Thursday nights was when Top of the Pops was on the BBC, and just that amazing video for Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't think they even called them videos back then, did they? They were promo films, I think they were still called at the time. And it was, I didn't understand it, Galileo, Figaro, Magnifico, I didn't understand it, but I just couldn't take my eyes off it. I think I was probably about 7 or 8 years old at the time, and it was like, it was puzzling but intriguing, and again, just a stop you in your tracks moment. And of course, Brian May's solo on it is just, absolutely iconic. But, it was just one of those things that for me, along with Layla and I guess Sultans of Swing, the other two that we've looked at so far, it's just emblematic of what was so fantastic about rock music in the 70s. People were taking chances, Bohemian Rhapsody, would never have been recorded in the 80s, because by the 80s, the rules were set and it didn't fit any of the rules, But yeah, absolutely fantastic. I don't need to tell you that. And again, if you're going to be talking about, stupendously good guitar moments from the 70s, then how can you not have Bohemian Rhapsody on the list? Next.
Hotel California.
Yes, or Mexican Reggae, which apparently was the working title for this song. It all stemmed from an instrumental demo tape that Don Felder passed on to Don Henley and Glenn Fry, and and they thought, we could probably do something with this, and its working title until they had the lyrics down was apparently Mexican Reggae, which is that's pretty much the definition of a useless piece of information, isn't it? Useless trivia. But there you go, one of the great guitar solos of all time, isn't it? Every so often, all of the guitar magazines do like a readers' poll, don't they? Of what are the greatest guitar solos ever played? And I've lost count of how many times Hotel California has won it, because it is that good. It's a great exercise in playing over chord changes. The chord changes themselves are a great exercise in how to construct a fantastic chord sequence. And, it's just everything about it is utterly fantastic. If you're watching this video, then, if I hadn't mentioned Hotel California, then you'd have been shouting at me in the comments. So, that's why, not only because I love it, but that is one of the reasons why it's there. It's just such an obvious choice that you had to include it. Next.
All Right Now.
Yeah, I did get a lot of flack when I was doing the blues rock, my 5 favourite blues rock albums from the 70s, for, why didn't you include Fire and Water? Because I had to narrow it down to 5. And if I'd included Fire and Water, I wouldn't have been able to include, Allman Brothers at the Fillmore, or Rory Gallagher Irish Tour or something like that. So there are only 5 spots on these lists, so that's why Fire and Water didn't make that list. But iconic 70s guitar moments. Again, go and check out any Spotify rock playlist with a 70s kind of theme to it, and I'll defy you to find any of those playlists that don't include this song. Absolutely amazing. Well, is it amazing? I don't know. It's basically A, D, and G. It's only 3 chords, isn't it? Sometimes the simplest ingredients create the tastiest dishes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's the solo, the Kossoff solo is just an exercise in perfectly constructed guitar solo, starting off with economic kind of slow, kind of very sparsely populated licks, and finishing up with kind of wailing away right at the top end of the neck, up at the dusty end. It's a brilliantly constructed solo, and it's probably something that he just played completely off the cuff, because Kossoff wasn't the kind of player that would sit and meticulously plot a solo and plan it out. This was just, he's very much kind of fly by the seat of his pants kind of player. But, it worked, though, didn't it? Absolutely fantastic solo, and just a great track again. It's emblematic, it's iconic of 70s rock, and there you have it. Those are my 5, I guess, favourite iconic rock guitar moments of the 70s. Next week I think we'll have a look at the 60s, dial it back and then move forward into the 80s and 90s and so on. But that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my choices in the comments. You usually do. And let me know what your choices would be. Again, it can be either a riff, a solo, a song, or an album. Something that is emblematic of rock guitar playing in the 70s. These are my choices. What are yours? As I say, I hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like while you're at it? Don't forget the live stream every Friday at 5 p.m. UK time, where we drink beer and talk about music and guitar and many, many other things too, whatever crops up basically. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.